has moved very rapidly at any speed or rather any direction it wanted to go. The flag could change and go to the right or the left or go crossways without hesitating a bit.
What do you think of it?
Well, if they call it a flying saucer, that's what it is.
The Air Force sent its chief scientific consultant on UFOs, Professor J. Allen Hynek, to check the Michigan sightings. Dr. Hynek agreed that the good citizens of Michigan had seen something in the marshlands. He thought they had seen marsh gas.
They, as children on a farm, had many experiences with swamp lights, and that this was obviously the thing that it was, and they couldn't understand why the people in Michigan.
Or 300 extremely incompetent airline and military pilots in this country. The airlines let them continue to fly even though they have reported UFOs.
The Air Force has been accused from time to time of hiding information about UFO. What do you have to say to that, Colonel Patrick?
Well, these charges are absolutely untrue.
We have not been hiding anything.
This is not an attack on the Air Force spokesman or the project spokesman. They are simply following orders to explain away all UFO sightings as quickly as possible when they become public and deny that UFOs really exist.
UFOs were fairly new, and even though there had been sporadic reports throughout the late 1800s and early 1900s, they were simply nothing to worry about. Flying saucers had been reported and photographed worldwide. They were not an issue because the sightings, although seen by pilots and close to Army bases, did not seem to pose any kind of threat. They were simply passed off as strange lights or sightings of atmospheric and weather anomalies by untrained civilians who were seeing things that were easy to explain. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, it became apparent that our military needed to control who or what flew into our airspace. Radar was the newest technology for detecting anything in our skies that was not acknowledged to be our aircraft. The Battle of LA was an example of an unknown aircraft that was immune to all that our anti-aircraft guns could deliver. Nothing could bring this one object down. What was our military going to do to control this unknown threat? What would happen if the public found out these things were real and there was nothing we could do to stop them? The only solution was to deny that there was any kind of threat from something we had no control over, something we could not stop. The solution included an official denial that would last over 60 years. The Air Force and the CIA hired and commissioned the top astronomers, scientists, and experts of those times to become the authorities on the subject of UFOs. These experts appeared on national radio and television and gave the naive, gullible, and patriotic public the myth about UFOs. Astronomer Thornton Page was on a CIA committee that investigated UFO reports in 1952. Its conclusion? No evidence of UFOs. Even highly regarded astronomer Carl Sagan was placed by the Air Force as a consultant on a scientific panel. to deny the existence of UFOs. The official Air Force reply was that there was no cover-up, and there were no flying saucers from outer space.
I would like to close by reading a very brief excerpt from the report of the Air Force's Scientific Advisory Board, which they made recently upon completing a detailed review of the subject of UFO. This is a statement. The committee concluded that in the 19 years since the first UFO was sighted, there has been no evidence that unidentified flying objects are a threat to our national security.
This was to become the greatest story ever denied.
Like many other people in Los Angeles, my brother and I were devastated by the Northridge earthquake. I was awake that morning making final edit decisions on a film that we had been working on for the past year. Our film and video editing studio was destroyed, so we had to finish cutting the film at one of the labs in Burbank. We didn't realize that the earthquake was only the beginning of what would become one of the many life-changing events that were about to unfold. We decided to go home and visit our family for a while before coming back and starting all over again. We went back to Roswell, New Mexico, which is our hometown, and a couple of months later we filmed the first broad daylight footage ever taken of UFOs over the Roswell area. We compiled an enormous archive of broad daylight UFO activity at Midway, which is where we all grew up, and which is located just 9 miles south of Roswell. Midway is also the place where the rods phenomenon was discovered.
A mysterious object has been caught on tape over Albany, New York.
It looks suspiciously like a missile. Is that possible?
Yeah, that's pretty scary over a commercial airport, but I don't know, whatever it is, it was going very fast, it was above the clouds, and it was hundreds of feet in length.
So the FBI has seen this tape?
Yeah, they took it from me, and it's on its way to Washington to be analyzed.
Now, what do you think it is? I mean, just looking at it, are you calling it a UFO? Or are you calling it a missile? What does it look like to you?
A lot of people are saying that it's this thing called a rod, which I'm not sure about. These biological creatures that live in the upper atmosphere, which sounds strange, that we haven't discovered yet because they just move too fast for us to see.
It doesn't. So somebody's telling you that thing is an animal.
Yeah. This guy Jose Escamilla, he's been researching these for like 8 years. He has a website.